Thank you so much. I'll try to project my voice. Can everyone hear?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry that we might figure that out for later on to make sure that we can get a mic or something. But otherwise, I'll just project. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We are missing a handful of people who still going to be absent today, unfortunately, but think of them as part of your group. And we'll see them next time, and we'll also see them online. So over the course of the next several weeks, as we said before, you'll really be connecting, and we'll get those missing folks into the room as well. But we wanted to get things started just talking a little bit about how we'll work together. So I'll start with my own meeting, because at the foundation of all of this are relationships and getting to understand each other from where we come from. And this is something that I've learned here in Aotearoa. You can probably tell from my accent that I was not born and raised here. So, ko Ottawa te awa, ko Laurentians te maunga, ko Canada te ui, Kristiann te. I am originally from Canada, and I wanted to just take a minute to tell you exactly from where, because when I think about what I've learned by moving myself and my family to a new home in Aotearoa, New Zealand, one of the things that has come to the forefront of my mind is where I'm from. And ironically, I think about it more being here, because those are the lessons I've been taught. There we go. I'm from Northern Ontario, Anishinaabe territory. I do not come from the Anishinaabe. My family were settlers many hundreds of years ago on my father's side, only just a couple of decades ago on my mother's side from Switzerland. My hometown is Sudbury, Ontario, and the reason I wanted to just mention this is that it's, there are some parallels, you know. When I grew up in Sudbury, which is a mining town, primary resource town, initially a logging town, and then after logging, a vein was struck and they found nickel ore in the ground. It's a town where resource supported the economy and the economy supported families, and that's how I grew up. However, I also grew up on a landscape that looked like that. And why did it look like that? Because the trees were cut in the late 19th century to support the smeltering of nickel ore. Once the trees were cut, the earth started to erode. And once the earth erodes, trees don't grow back. And what's more, those two stacks in the background, those are called the super stacks, that send sulfuric acid fumes into the air from the more modern smelting factories since the 1960s, and created what was known locally as acid rain, you can imagine. And so nothing grew back. So that is the landscape that I grew up on. That was my home turf, North. But it didn't stay like that, because from about 1974 onwards, the mines, though they were, sorry, it was because of the mining, but from 1974 onwards, it started to look more like this. And when I've gone back now with my Tamariki and my husband, this is what I go back to. And I mean, brings tears to my eyes. But imagine the people who've lived there over those generations, what they've seen. And why is that? Mostly because of this. You can all go have a look at my hometown. But the Sudbury regreening effort is actually world-renowned. And it was because people came together and they said, look, these resource industries support us. We get that and we need that. But we can also say something about how they should operate, about what should be done, about how it can work. So this is a project from where I'm from, Sudbury, Ontario, that actually is something I think that can be looked to as an example. So I wanted to just share that with you quickly, because I think that, you know, there's lots of hope around projects like this. This isn't the only one, you know, and Ted Affinity might be the next one. So it's useful to think about those things. But for me in particular, it's very close to my heart, because that is Makoto, where I work at the University of Boston, and I have the great fortune and the great pleasure of working with this man, Charles Royal, at Point 2. And Charles thinks a whole lot about how people make decisions here in Aotearoa under a Te Tīti context. Unfortunately, Charles couldn't be with us today here. He's not been well for the last little while, and he's been travel, but his words of wisdom and his guidance, generalized though they may be, they're not they're very Te Māori perspective. So it's a generalized perspective, but it's truly guidance for the type of work that we're doing together. And he likes to think about and remind us that that we can draw on wisdom and share wisdom. And I think, Tosh, maybe you would seem to me, you share this way of thinking as well, that we're here to work together, but that there are principles and ways of working that are foundational. And so what I've learned from Charles are about whanaungatanga, acknowledging where we come from, our own whakapapa, and what we can bring to the relationships that we will form in this group. Whakapapa is about unity, lending our individual voices and making a whole. Kristiann, of course, caring for ourselves and others and the environment. And what that means in this instance, and I'll pass it to Anne to talk a bit more about this, but really looking out for each other. And ACO, one of my favorites, which is this principle that the learner is the teacher and the teacher is the learner. It's very reciprocal. A big thank you to Charles for helping us with that. So, Anne, how do we operationalize what Charles has taught us?
Yeah, so this is, you know that you've come to what we've called a citizens' assembly. These kind of processes are used around the world, and but we've been working for many years now trying to localize them in the Aotearoa context. But there are certain things that are not too different from other ways of communicating and making decisions in some communities. But these are principles that we want good conversations to live by. And that's not really about, you know that you've come here as a diverse group from across the region. And the number one thing is to respect each other's perspectives and values. That's what you're all bringing to this conversation. And listening and learning and asking questions. So what we moved from not your deeply held values, which you can keep, but listening and learning, asking questions. You'll hear from a number of experts today, and you'll hear from each other. And what we'll do by the end of the day is to get you to think about what else you need to hear, what stakeholders you need to hear from, and what more information you think you need. So it's a lot about learning. So it's about a diversity of perspectives. It's about listening and learning and asking questions. And number 3 says share your views and reasons for them. So that is maybe a critical step. We're not here to debate. It's not somebody winning or losing. You're an assembly that in the end has to come to a consensus around some recommendations that you can all at least live with. You might not all love them, but you will get through this process to a point where you can find what you have in common for the future of the region and see what you can agree on. So to do that, you have to come to the core, which is to be open-minded. You have to come to this with your own views, but be willing to hear the reasons of others. And when you're presenting your own reasons, to try to do that in a way you think that other people might understand. So definitely be open to possibly changing your mind when you hear some other perspectives. And we're all here to look out for each other's well-being. This is a tricky issue that we're asking you to deliberate on, and it has pretty high stakes for some people in the region. So we're here to respect each other and look after each other as well, and be present in this conversation. I know it's a lot of work, but I think it will be enjoyable once you get into the process, and you'll probably find there's more that you have in common than you think. So complex issues require collective action, which starts with understanding how issues affect different people in different ways. So that's why you're all here, to share that and to see what we can do positively for the region.
Great. And I should say too that everything here is not just a dictate to you, it applies to us who are invited to help with this process. It applies to the conveners who invited us to help with this process. It's all of us, right? And the process is really flexible. So we will learn in that principle of ACO, we learn from you about what some of the gaps are and what you would still like to know. And when we meet again, we can help to bring those voices in. So it applies to us as well. In terms of looking out for well-being, I should mention as well that in your packets, in the handbook, there is a list of some key phone numbers. We know that this is, as Anne said, it's a tough topic, right? And people are affected in different ways. We're going to talk about, I'm going to learn more about each other and how we've been, before I say we, but I should say you, because I have not been affected in the same way because I'm not from the region. But if folks feel that, it does all just get too heavy at times. Myself, Dana, we're looking around, come to us, mention how you're feeling. We'll also look around and sort of try to take the pulse, get the vibe, see if people are really struggling or having trouble. But know that it has started us off creating a really safe space, right? So, we can help you take that breath and we can help you just sort of get through a difficult moment if that's what's needed. But there are also some terms that are in your packets that are available to you as well. I just wanted to say that to recognize that, this is a post-traumatic and sometimes still traumatic situation, and it hasn't really been an easy go for this region. But in the spirit of optimism, again, that's why we're here.
Kia ora. Kami sebagai keluarga Kristiann kita pada iwi ko nukusi te wata ko umatu tumai pakata semua apa nora itu kia apa ko wai ko dai na check itu ko wa part of the facilitation team but based here in finance and also part of the community as a community researcher. So, kia ora, and feel free to come and introduce yourself or ask any questions or anything anything. Yeah, here we go.
Just looking over, if anyone needs the Wi-Fi, please say yes. And the password is remember, all lowercase, but the second E, third E is observed. Yeah. So if you need it, and what actually we will maybe have you do a little exercise a little later, which will involve getting on Wi-Fi.
So just to finish off this first bit is the other thing that Charles is helping us to think through, and certainly here in the region, it's been really instrumental in helping us to think through how we can make this process and processes like this truly informed and really based and localized to your possible concern. So we have some thoughts on this, but it's still an open question because what we're doing is really new, right? And partly even doing it here in Aotearoa at the request of a Māori-led organization is already getting a good start on that. So this idea of relational, being relational by design in our work is so important and foundational here. So we are asking you, we do recognize that this is not the usual process of consultation. It's not the usual place where people get information, whether that's at your school, at your workplace, at your home, or on your marae. It's not the usual way that people have an understanding of where they would speak or where their voice would be heard. It's very different to all of that. But stepping outside of those normal patterns is actually the point, right? And that's why this new process and this new innovative way of trying to do something we don't know where it will land us, right? And this is like, again, as Tosh said at the beginning, thank you so much to the GDC, to TLA for being courageous, for taking this step into something that's quite new. So building those relationships is the point. And it offers this rare opportunity to make connections between and Palindi, who may not yet, have that understanding of how to be community. So it's an opportunity to do that. And of course, it's a platform for localized considerations. And forefront of localized considerations, obviously, are what happens in specific places, on specific locations, how we might think about what's going on with them. And so we'll have the opportunity to bring those in as we go along as well. And of course, it's a resource for decision making. And just wanting to reiterate what you said at the outset, which is it doesn't replace any of that. It's a resource. It sits alongside an opportunity to use. So that's kind of our starting place on how we are setting out to be informed. But again, it's an open question and open to modification and design. And so grateful that Tumeyu is the ones taking this on because they themselves are, research-based and wanting to understand. And I had here a little placeholder for Nadine, but she's actually already spoken to you. Yeah, you can. I was looking for you.
Thank you. I just wanted to have an opportunity again to probably just talk a little bit more about the GDC and the decision-making process. But also, just in terms of this particular kaupapa, whilst I said, we've been really focused on it for the last couple of years, actually, the bigger issue around forestry, land use, farming, erosion has been probably front of mind for council for a very long time, post-cyclone Bola, in terms of the incentivisation that came when money was there provided to be able to do this mass planting that we are now having to deal with. And you'll hear a bit more about that from Kerry Hudson, who's our expert around all these kinds of things. So I just want to reinforce that this is huge. This is really, really big. And we have a number of things that are running parallel to this. So we have a transition advisory group, which comprises forestry, farming, environmentalists, community, that are also looking at how do we address this challenge that we've got for our region. So it is, from my perspective of council, it is the one big challenge, the wicked problem in our region that we need all minds to kind of get around and think about how do we solve this. And one of the things, just reinforcing in terms of that decision making, because I understand that there are questions about what happens with these recommendations, and ultimately they will get feedback through to council. Council at the end of the day will have to work within its statutory constraints and costs and weigh the core wellbeing's approach, so that your recommendations will come in and be a part of that, and we just have to see where that lands alongside everything else that's coming in. This process is tracking ahead of where some of our other work streams are at, so you might be wanting further information that we're not able to provide you because we haven't quite got there at this stage, but we'll do our best to be able to answer those questions as you go through over the next 3 weeks to do that. So my team are here again just to help and lean in and support the process. And just by way of background too, the whole idea around the Citizens Assembly came out of like a deliberative democracy approach that we were trying to do when we got federal funding back in 2022 which was then 3 waters, which then changed to 10 waters, which is now local waters done well. And so we were awarded, made a case for a significant, actually quite a large amount of money to look at climate change. And so we contracted to run a kind of deliberative democracy process. And over time it's changed, and here we are now, which is dealing, as they say, with the biggest issue in the region, But I think what we are really interested in is the process. What we're really interested in from council also is how do we replicate this across a whole number of different domains, like our long-term plan process, where we go out to 20 plus townships and we have farmers market stands and we have meetings at the library, and you might get 30 people turn up. You don't have an opportunity for dialogue, and that's what I think is going to be really exciting about this, is hearing the conversations, the challenging, the mindsets or the views across the tables in your groups and with one another, but also asking the questions of the council and experts along the way. So, yeah, again, here to help, here to support the process, really looking a few weeks. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no, we're on to. Yeah.
I'll hand it over to you're in Anne's hands now, and she will explain what we are starting with activity around.
Well, we did think about using this middle aisle for a couple of lines of people. I don't know if we want to do that or if we want to just stay at tables. This is a get to know you.
We're going to say, yeah, we can try that. Like to pull back the table. We can get everybody to stand up. And we're going to make 2 lines. So everyone's across this side, just sort of make a line. If you have to nudge the table